The rain had just stopped when little Ava stumbled into the parking lot behind the grocery store, her tiny shoes soaked, her small hands trembling, and her brown eyes swollen from crying. She kept wiping her cheeks with the back of her palm, as if she was trying to scrub away the memory that kept replaying in her head, a memory she didn't know how to carry, a memory she wished she could unsee. She clutched her backpack straps and forced herself to breathe. She knew where she needed to go. Grandma always told her, "If you're ever scared, baby, there is one group of people who don't tolerate cruelty, those leather-vested angels on two wheels, the Iron Falcons Biker Club." Ava had passed them every day on her walk home from school, loud engines, tattoos, scruffy beards, and booming laughter. They looked terrifying, like comic book villains in real life, until the day one of them helped her retrieve a runaway soccer ball from the middle of the street and gently tied her shoelaces. Grandma had smiled when Ava told her that story. "They look rough, but they're protectors," she'd said. "Real guardians don't always come wearing shiny armor. Sometimes they come wearing leather jackets." Ava didn't know if that was true, but today she needed to believe in it. Her heart pounded as she approached the old warehouse where the bikers hung out. Motorcycles lined the entrance, sleek black Harleys, chrome-heavy beasts, and custom-painted monsters that looked like they could roar even when they were silent. And the Falcons were all there. Half a dozen of them sat outside, smoking, talking, or tuning their bikes. Their jackets were marked with the winged falcon emblem. Their boots were heavy. Their presence was dangerous. Ava hesitated. The biggest biker turned and noticed her standing by the fence, small as a sparrow in a storm. His voice boomed. "Hey, you okay, kid?" More heads turned. Their conversation stopped. Ava swallowed hard, and then her voice cracked in half. "He hit my grandma." The words floated out like shattered glass, and the silence that followed them was so complete that even the wind didn't dare move. The bikers froze. The biggest one, Bear, they called him, stood up so fast his chair scraped the concrete. "What did you say?" he growled, but not at her. Never at her. The anger wasn't pointed at the child. It was already directed at the unknown monster who had raised a hand against an elderly woman. Ava sniffed, tears streaming again despite her effort to stay brave. "He hit her really hard, and she fell, and she told me to run. I didn't know where to go." The smallest biker, a stocky woman named Rogue, knelt in front of her, gently brushing hair out of Ava's face. "Sweetheart, who hit your grandma?" Ava's voice quivered. "My mom's boyfriend, Dave." Grandma tried to stop him from drinking again. He told her to shut up. She didn't. So she hit the floor really bad. Rogue's jaw tightened. Bear looked ready to tear steel apart with his bare hands. A low, murderous murmur rippled through the group. Razor, the quietest of them all, muttered, "Coward, hitting an old woman." Brick punched his fist into his palm. "Where's the address, kid?" Ava jerked her chin toward the row of apartments only 3 blocks away. "He's still there," she whispered. "He locked me out so he could yell at Grandma more. More? That was all Bear needed." He tossed his helmet to Brick. "Everyone gear up. Now!" Engines roared instantly, deep, thunderous, shaking the air like a declaration of war. Rogue picked Ava up and settled her gently on the back of her bike. "You ride with me, baby. You're safe now." Ava clung to her like a lifeline. Bear's voice cut through the noise. "Nobody hurts a grandma on our watch. And nobody makes a kid cry like that." The Falcons rolled out. 8 bikes in formation, engines echoing through the streets like approaching thunder. Ava pointed the way, her heart racing as they got closer to her apartment. The building came into view, small peeling paint, overgrown bushes, yellow windows glowing eerily in the gloomy dusk. Bear braked so hard his rear wheels skidded, because standing in the doorway of Ava's apartment was a man, tall, drunk, angry, and yelling something into the house. "Dave!" He staggered outside holding a half-empty beer bottle. He didn't notice the bikes at first. Not until Bear cut the engine and stepped forward. Not until Razor cracked his knuckles. Not until 8 leather-clad guardians formed a menacing semicircle right outside his door. Ava peeked from behind Rogue's shoulder. Dave blinked at the bikers. "The hell? What do you want?" Bear's voice was low, cold, deadly. "You laid hands on a grandmother." Dave scoffed. "None of your—" Rogue took a step forward, her voice like steel. "We're making it our business." Dave tried to puff out his chest. "You touch me and I'll call the cops." "Perfect," Bear replied. They can take you straight to a cell after they see what you did." Inside the apartment, a faint moan drifted out. Ava gasped. "Grandma!" Bear kicked open the door without waiting for permission. Dave lunged forward as if to stop him, and Razor grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall so fast he didn't even have time to react. "Try me," Razor hissed. Inside, they found Grandma May on the floor, bruised, bleeding from a cut near her temple, struggling to stay conscious. Rogue rushed in first, lifting her gently. "May, you hold on, we're here now." Grandma May blinked, weakly. "Ava, where's Ava?" "I'm right here, Grandma," Ava cried, falling to her knees beside her. May reached up, touching the girl's cheek. Good girl. You're safe." Bear knelt beside them. "Ma'am, we're calling an ambulance." "No," May whispered. "Just get Ava out of here." "You're both getting out of here," Bear said, "and that bastard is done." Behind them, Dave was still pinned to the wall, sputtering. "You can't take her. I'm her mother's partner." Razor cut him off. "Partner isn't the word you're looking for, buddy." Brick cracked his knuckles loudly. "The word is coward." Dave growled like a frustrated child. "This is illegal. You can't just storm my house." Bear looked at him, expression dark. "You lost the right to complain about the law the moment you hit a defenseless grandmother and terrified a child." Dave spat at the floor. "They're my family. She shouldn't have interfered." Bear stepped right into his space, voice low and icy. "You hurt her. You scared her granddaughter. And now?" He leaned in. "You answer to us." Dave's eyes darted nervously between the bikers, all muscle, fury, and controlled violence. He realized he'd made the worst mistake of his life. The street filled with neighbors peeking out. People began filming. The sirens were already faint in the distance. Someone must have called them when the bikers arrived. But Ava didn't care about any of that, because all she saw was her grandma's hand gripping hers, and the safety she felt surrounded by the falcons. Bear placed a hand on Ava's head. "You did the right thing coming to us," he said softly. But Ava shook her head, voice breaking. "I didn't want to. I was scared. I thought you'd be too busy." Bear crouched to her level, his large hand gentle on her tiny shoulder. "Kid, whenever someone hurts you or someone you love, you come to us. Always." Behind him, Razor tightened his grip on Dave, and Bear uttered the words that made the neighbors gasp. "And tonight? We're not leaving until this man answers for every bruise, every shout, and every tear he caused." Ava looked up at the bikers, these giants of steel and leather, and for the first time since the incident, she felt safe. She felt protected. She felt like she wasn't alone anymore. That moment, right there, was the moment the Falcons silently vowed something. Whoever hurt this grandmother and child would regret it. And the night was only just beginning. The paramedics arrived in minutes, lights flashing red against the rain-soaked street. Neighbors stood clustered on balconies and sidewalks, whispering and recording, but the Iron Falcons formed a protective circle around Grandma May and Ava, blocking out the crowd. "Easy, May," Rogue whispered, helping the medics lift her onto the stretcher. "You're going to the hospital. You're safe now." Grandma May squeezed Ava's hand. "Stay with me, sweet pea. I'll be right behind," Eva promised, her voice shaking. Bear stepped closer to the medic. "She needs a full scan. Head trauma." The medic nodded. "We'll take good care of her." But when they started to wheel the stretcher toward the ambulance, Grandma May's eyes fluttered open weakly. "Please, someone stay with Ava." Bear placed a hand over his chest. "I will." May sighed in relief and let her eyes close again. The ambulance doors shut, and the sirens wailed as it pulled away. Only then did Bear turn back toward the apartment, toward Dave, still pinned against the wall by Razor. Dave's arrogance was evaporating quickly. He tried to puff out his chest again, but his voice cracked. "Look, I didn't mean to hurt her. She got in my way. She's old and fragile. What do you expect?" "It wasn't my fault." Brick stepped forward. "Stop talking before you make it worse." Dave sneered. "You can't scare me. I know my right." Razor's eyes narrowed. "She's old and fragile? That's your excuse for knocking her unconscious?" "She shouldn't have yelled at me," Dave snapped. "She makes everything worse, always complaining." Rogue's voice sliced through the air. "She tried to protect Ava." Dave opened his mouth, but Bear silenced him with a single growl. "You're done talking!" Police sirens echoed down the street. Dave smirked through cracked lips. "Great, now you thugs are in trouble." Bear turned slowly, cracking his neck. "Oh no," he said. We're not the ones who called them. The police car stopped, and 2 officers stepped out, immediately taking in the scene. Dave pinned, Ava trembling behind Rogue, the bikers standing like a wall. Officer Hayes, a familiar face in the neighborhood, lifted his chin at the Falcons. What's going on? Rogue gestured toward Ava. The child says he hit her grandmother. Hard enough to knock her out. Paramedics just took her. Ava nodded, wiping her eyes. He hurt her, and he yelled at me, and he locked me out. Officer Hayes' expression hardened. Dave Wilson? Dave scoffed. Come on, man. We know each other. These bikers are making it sound worse than it is. Hayes shot him a look. Dave, you're drunk. You assaulted an elderly woman. That's felony battery. Dave's smirk disappeared. Officer Hayes turned to Razor. Let him go. We'll handle it. Razor dropped Dave like trash, and Dave stumbled forward. Before he could speak again, Hayes had him against the squad car. Dave protested. You're arresting me? What about these bikers? Hayes tightened the cuffs. They protected a child and saved a woman's life. Meanwhile, you terrorized them. Another officer stepped up. We'll talk to them later. For now, you're going in. Dave's jaw dropped. You can't do this. I'm Ava's stepfather. Hayes looked at Ava. Is that true? Ava shook her head hard. He's not married to Mom. They just live together sometimes. Hayes' expression went cold. Then you are nothing to this kid, Dave snarled, but he was shoved into the back of the car. The moment the police cruiser pulled away, Ava collapsed to her knees, shoulders shaking. Bear lifted her gently. You okay, kid? Ava shook her head. I want my grandma. Rogue stroked her hair. We're taking you to her right now. The bikers escorted Ava to their motorcycles, but before Bear could lift her onto his bike again, a voice called, Ava? A woman rushed barefoot across the pavement. Ava's mother, Emily. Her eyes were red, her hair still damp from the shower, panic plastered across her face. She fell to her knees in front of Ava and cupped her face. Oh my God, baby. What happened? Why weren't you inside? I only stepped out for a minute. Ava burst into tears. He hit Grandma, and she fell, and I ran. Emily gasped, tears filling her eyes. Where is she? Where's Mom? Rogue answered gently. Hospital. Ambulance just took her. Emily stood, shaky and furious. Dave, where's Dave? Where he belongs, Bear growled. In the back of a patrol car. A mix of relief, rage, and guilt washed over Emily's face. I should have left him months ago, she whispered. Rogue placed a hand on her shoulder. You'll get a chance to fix that now. Emily looked at the bikes. Please, take us to the hospital. The Falcons didn't hesitate. Bear placed Ava in front of him. Rogue helped Emily onto her own bike. With engines roaring to life, they rode as a pack through the night, protecting the mother and child the way Emily wished someone had protected her all these years. At the hospital, Ava ran straight inside. Emily followed, breathless. The bikers walked behind them like silent guardians. A nurse recognized Ava immediately. Your grandmother is in exam room T. She's awake. Ava bolted down the hallway. May lay on the bed, a small bandage on her head and 4 in her arm, but her eyes lit up the moment Ava entered. My sweet girl. Ava jumped into her arms, carefully but desperately. I was so scared she sobbed. May stroked her hair. You did everything right. Emily collapsed into a chair beside the bed. Mom, I'm so sorry. May looked at her daughter calmly. This isn't your fault, but what happens next is in your hands. Emily nodded through tears. The bikers stood quietly near the door until May looked at them and smiled weakly. You boys and girls saved us, she whispered. Thank you. Bear shook his head. No thanks needed, ma'am. But May reached out her hand. Bear froze, then gently took it. Thank you, she repeated, voice tender. For being where my granddaughter needed you. Ava looked up from May's chest. Can they stay? She asked. Emily blinked. Stay? Sweetheart, they have their own lives. But Rogue smiled. We can stick around a while. Bear nodded. We're not leaving until you're safe for good. Ava clung to May, relieved. But Emily's face tightened. Safe for good? Bear folded his arms. Dave's arrest is just the start. Men like him don't let go quietly. Emily swallowed hard. You think he'll come back? Rogue answered. We know he will. Emily looked terrified, but Bear's voice was steady, deep, and absolute. Let him try. Ava turned to him, eyes wide. What will you do? Bear's gaze shifted toward the hospital doors, as if already looking into the future. "We're going to protect your family," he said. "Whatever it takes." A chill ran down Emily's spine, and even May felt a stir of unease, because Bear wasn't making a metaphor. The Falcons were already making plans, plans that Dave would never see coming, plans that would lead them straight to his door, and by sunrise, the entire neighborhood would know what it meant when the Iron Falcons parked outside a man's home. The Falcon Clubhouse sat humming with low music and dim light. Hours had passed since they escorted Emily and Ava home from the hospital, and then doubled back to help Emily pack her things. They worked quietly, efficiently, Rogue handling the fragile items, Brick carrying boxes like they weighed nothing, Razor standing in the doorway scanning for danger. No one wanted to say aloud what they all knew. Dave would look for revenge. And when he found his apartment empty, when he realized Ava and Emily were gone, he would snap. May was kept overnight at the hospital for observation. Ava refused to leave her side, curling up in the bed beside her grandmother. Emily slept in a chair, exhausted, finally free of screaming and threats. But the bikers, they didn't sleep. At 4:12 a.m., the clubhouse buzzer broke the silence. Bear opened the door. A trembling neighbor stood there, wide-eyed and panicked. "You guys, you need to come. Dave is back. He just showed up at the apartment. He's kicking in the door. He's screaming that he'll kill someone." Bear's jaw flexed. Razor stood immediately. Brick cracked his neck. Rogue pulled on her gloves. The Falcons didn't need a plan. They didn't need a discussion. They moved. Seconds later, 8 engines roared awake, vibrating the street as they tore into the night. Dave's apartment building came into view. Lights on, curtains shifting, neighbors peeking out in fear. Dave was exactly where the neighbor said, drunk, enraged, kicking his own door off its hinges. "You think you can leave me?" he screamed. "You think you can take what's mine?" He ripped the door open and stormed inside. Glass shattered. Furniture hit walls. His voice echoed down the block like an animal raging in a cage. The Falcons parked in a perfect L. Outside the building. Bear stepped off his Harley first. His boots were slow, deliberate, heavy on the ground. Razor and Brick flanked him. Rogue, Bones, Tiny, and Hawk moved behind, forming a wall that could stop a truck. Neighbors watched from their windows, gasping as the Falcons marched straight toward the building. Inside, Dave tossed a lamp against the wall, panting like a madman. "Where is she? Where's that old hag? I know she's here. Ava!" He kicked over another chair. And then, he froze. Because the building suddenly went quiet, dead quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your lungs. Dave turned toward the doorway. 8 leather-clad silhouettes filled the entrance, blocking out the hallway light like storm clouds swallowing the sun. Bear stepped forward, ice in his voice. "You need to stop calling her." Dave blinked. What are you doing here? Get out. This is my apartment." Razor shook his head slowly. "No. You lost that privilege when you beat a grandmother unconscious." Dave stumbled backward, suddenly aware of the size of the men in front of him. "She deserved it. Always meddling, always nagging." Brick stepped in closer. "Say another word." Dave lifted a broken beer bottle, wavering. "You think I'm scared of you? You gonna jump me? All of you against one? That's coward." Bear cut him off. "No, only one of us will deal with you." Dave's smirk returned. "Oh yeah? Which one?" Bear cracked his knuckles. "Me." The room felt smaller. Dave's pale face tried to rearrange itself into confidence, but failed. "I didn't do anything wrong," he whispered, but it was weak, even to him. Bear stepped closer until he towered over Dave. "You hit a defenseless old woman. You terrorized a child. You hunted down her family." Dave tried lifting the bottle, but his hand shook so violently it clinked against his own knuckles. Bear grabbed it and snapped it clean out of his grip. "Tonight," Bear growled. "You answer for it." Dave swung his fist. Bear caught it easily. Then Bear lifted him off the ground and slammed him into the wall so hard, the plaster cracked. Dave choked on his breath. "You can't do this. I'll call the cops." Bear leaned in so close Dave could smell the smoke on his breath. "We're not touching you after this. We don't need to." Dave tried to wriggle free. "What does that mean?" Bear dropped him, and Dave fell to the floor coughing. Rogue stepped forward with a folded piece of paper. "This is what it means. Emily's filed a restraining order. The landlord has evicted you, and CPS is already involved. Dave's eyes widened. You're lying. Tiny tossed Dave's duffel bag at him, full of hastily packed clothes. You have 10 minutes to leave this building, Hawk said quietly. Because when the sun rises and those cops show up, they're going to be very interested in what your neighbors have to say about you. Dave looked around as if searching for an escape that didn't exist. Where will I go? That woman depends on me. She'll call me. She always does. She isn't calling you again, Bear said. Ever. Dave's eyes rolled wildly. His voice cracked into something pathetic. She'll come crawling back. She always does. And the kid likes me. Rogue stepped forward, her voice deadly calm. Ava cries when she hears your name. That broke him. And the Falcons knew it. Dave lunged like a cornered animal, but Razor pinned him before he even left the floor. Brick opened the door wide. Get out. Dave scrambled up, grabbed his duffel, and ran into the hallway, yelling curses that echoed off the walls. Bear followed him outside. Dave staggered down the front steps and stopped dead, because every neighbor, every single one, had come outside, standing in the cold, watching, and behind them, 8 gleaming motorcycles parked in a line like a wall of steel. Dave swallowed. Bear spoke loudly enough for the whole block to hear. If you ever come near Emily, Ava, or May again, if you call, text, visit, threaten, or even breathe near them, every one of us will be there. Engines revved behind him, 8 throaty roars vibrating the pavement, and this time Bear added softly, We won't let you walk away. Dave's face twisted. He turned and ran into the darkness, tripping over his own feet as he fled. He didn't look back, not once. The neighbors cheered, some clapped, some breathed sighs of relief. Others simply smiled at the sight of the Iron Falcons standing guard like urban legends made real. Bear exhaled, tension melting from his shoulders. It's done, Razor nodded. For now, but he won't be back. Rogue looked at the apartment behind them. Let's return to the hospital. The family needs us there. Sunrise painted the city orange by the time they arrived back at May's hospital room. Ava sat curled beside her grandma, dozing. Emily was awake, eyes hollow but peaceful in a way Bear had never seen. When the Falcons entered, Emily stood up quickly. What happened? Did he? Bear shook his head. He's gone. And he won't come back. Emily covered her face and broke into quiet sobs, not of fear but of release. May opened her eyes. Thank you, boys. Thank you. You gave my granddaughter her life back. Ava stirred awake, lifting her head. Is he gone? Bear knelt beside her. He won't hurt you again. Ever. Ava hugged him suddenly, fiercely, burying her face in his leather vest. Bear froze, then slowly wrapped his arms around her, careful, gentle, almost fatherly. Rogue smiled softly. May whispered, We're safe now, sweetheart. Emily wiped her eyes. I don't know how to repay you. Rogue shrugged. You don't. Jew. Saint live safe. Live free, Bear added, and know you've got a family in us. Emily blinked through tears. Family? Bear nodded. You ever need anything? A ride? Protection? Help moving a couch? Someone to walk you to the car? Someone to scare a problem away? Razor smirked. We do that last one really well. Emily laughed, a broken laugh at first, then full of warmth. Ava reached for Rogue's hand. Can you guys stay until Grandma goes home? Rogue brushed her hair back. We'll be right outside. And they were, for the entire day. Then the next. Then the day after that. The hospital staff joked that the Iron Falcons had become security. But the truth was simpler. They had adopted the family. May was discharged 3 days later. The Falcons escorted her personally to her daughter's new apartment, one they helped Emily secure, furnished, and fortify. Ava held Bear's hand the whole way inside. Neighbors peeked through doors as the bikers filed in, carrying bags and boxes with quiet respect. May settled into her armchair, smiling. Emily hugged the entire crew one by one. Rogue ruffled Ava's hair. You ever feel scared at school, you call me? Brick handed Emily a phone. Our numbers are in here. Bear handed Ava a small embroidered patch with the falcon wings. For your backpack, Ava gasped. Do I get to be part of your club? Bear winked. You're our little falcon now. Ava hugged him so tightly he had to lift her. Thank you for saving Grandma, she whispered. Bear kissed her forehead. You saved her first, kid. You came to us. You were brave." Ava's smile reached all the way to her ears. The Falcons stepped outside, heading toward their bikes. Before Bear mounted his Harley, he glanced back at the apartment. Ava and Emily waved from the window. May smiled from her chair. For the first time in years, their home was peaceful, protected, free. Bear put on his helmet. "You hear that?" Rogue asked him. Bear listened. Somewhere inside his chest, he felt it. This is what they were made for. Not trouble, not noise, not fear, but protection. He started the engine. The Falcons rode off together, sunlight gleaming off chrome, leaving behind a home they'd saved and a child who would never forget the night she called them. And they came.